So today's story knows no shame. This is a story from my youth, and it's gonna come off with a little bit of deepity. So I apologize in advance. It takes place about 15 years ago, maybe 14 or 13 years ago. I was a young man. I was maybe an early teenager. One of my first jobs was working at a Comp USA. And if you don't know what a Comp USA is, I can't really blame you. They were a computer parts store. They sold computers and various technical equipment. They sold cameras and those kinds of things. But it was one of my first jobs, and it was an interesting look into a world that I hadn't really been in before. And specifically, it was a look into the world of sales. You see, most of the employees there that worked on the floor, they had ID numbers. And me being a cashier, when they would walk a customer up, they would say, "Hey, Whitney, plug in the ID number. Plug in my ID number. I want to get commission on this." So very quickly I got used to, seeing the process of salesmen trying to, dish goods onto people. And the store had quite a few successful salesmen. I mean, I at least, best as I could tell, they were, rather charming or charismatic, well-spoken, professional. But there was one guy there that was not in my playbook of really professional people. His name was Hitesh, and he was a very quiet guy. He was a salesman at the store. Me being a 13, 14-year-old kid, it was interesting to see all of these really young go-getter guys, and then you've got Hitesh, this guy who's in his mid-30s, who's very quiet and very soft-spoken. He never approached anyone. He waited for them to seek him out. I mean, he was the antithesis of what a normal sales guy was. And I always thought of Hitesh as a kind of a lonely guy. That probably wasn't true. He probably wasn't a lonely guy, but for some reason I kind of, I guess I telegraphed that on him, or I superimposed that on him. But the story I want to tell you guys about Hitesh was one night, maybe I'd been working there for 8 months or 9 months. And one evening, I found myself stocking printer cartridges with Hitesh, and we were on the floor. The store had closed, and we were on the floor trying to, put all these printer cartridges in each appropriate slot. And there were just hundreds of them. I'm sure there's even more today, but there was 100 of these damn things. And we were just doing this monotonous task of just stocking printer cartridges. And I remember at the time, this was pre-2011 and 2012. And I say this because maybe this is going to sound a little bit ridiculous, but some of you probably remember the big scare that happened regarding the Mayan calendar coming to an end. There was a huge media fuss about the 2012 calendar and December 21st, 2012, and how the Mayan calendar just suddenly, abruptly ended. And this was in the years leading up to that, right? This is in the years leading up to 2012. And I had a habit, a rather bad habit, I should say, but I had a habit of asking a lot of people that I knew how they felt about the Mayan calendar coming to an end. A lot of people speculated, crazy stuff, apocalyptic stuff. But yeah, I was having a quiet evening stocking these printer cartridges with Hitesh, and me being the talkative young man, but I decided to kind of break the silence and ask Hitesh. I remember I looked at him and I said, "What do you think about the end of the Mayan calendar?" And I remember he looked at me. His thick eyebrows, his really dark complexion. He looked at me and he was like, "What are you asking me? What are you asking me, Whitney?" And I looked at him and I said, "You think the world's gonna end?" And I'll never forget what he said to me. He looked at me and he said, "Whitney, the world ends every day." And me being the impressionable young man I was like, man, this guy is really surprisingly deep, I guess the old The old saying is true, you can't judge a book by its cover. Now, I don't know if that little exchange served to kind of reinforce or confirm my image of Hitesh. I don't know if it was indicative of cynicism about the world or what, but I just loved the way that he said that. I loved I loved the way that it rolled out of him and the confidence that he had. And it's something that I think is going to stay with me for a very long time.